You ever have one of those weeks where you're just like, oh my God, every day is just, oh my God. Every moment is, oh my God. We are collectively having that week as America, where since the weekend, we have just been hit with one blow after another after another. And I keep saying, folks need to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable because that is the essence of what it means to live inside of authoritarian regime where you don't know where the hits are coming, where you no longer feel safe, where every day another ding on your phone, another headline is telling you that another right of yours has been eroded, where you no longer trust the people that are around you, where trust the people that are next to you because you don't know who to trust. That is at the core of authoritarianism. It is every person for themselves. But you have to understand, in this moment of great pressure, in this moment of great unease, is the moment that is set to define who America is going to be moving forward. It is either going to be us or it is going to be them, but it cannot and it will not be both. That is where we start today on the Danielle Moodie Show. Buckle up, friends. Happy Wednesday, damnation. Let's get into it. Welcome, dear friends. It is so great to be back live with you all. I had a few days walking around bare feet in grass, watching bunnies and chipmunks, and now I am back. The fact is, folks, no matter how far I go, no matter how far some of us may travel for some peace, what is becoming crystal clear is that unless you are fleeing this country, peace is going to be an illusion. It's one that we need, damnation. It's one that we need. And if you watched today's check-in with myself and Jared Yates Sexton, which is up right now on my Substack, so do check out my Substack, The Damn Digest, where Jared and I talked about how we are feeling, how we've been feeling since Saturday. And we go through both the physical, emotional, and spiritual ways in which this authoritarian regime is truly testing us. It is testing every single bit of resolve that we have. And, as I was putting together today's show, one particular artist has been on my mind that I've been thinking about a lot, and that is Bob Marley. And maybe it's because, I'm Jamaican, and my family that I talk about often came to the United States from Jamaica in 1970. And they came here for a better life. They built a better life for themselves, for their children, for their grandchildren. But I think about Bob Marley and I think about his revolutionary music because that's what it was, revolutionary music. And his song, Get Up, Stand Up, where he says, you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. It's one of my favorite lines because as I am thinking about this moment, as I am thinking about Donald Trump and how Donald Trump was able to come into office in 2016 and then run again in 2020, but lose, but gain more voters, and then come into office again in 2024, which I'm not completely convinced of that he did so on legal grounds. I'm not convinced that Donald Trump actually won this election, but that Democrats are too spineless to have look into it. Nonetheless, is that what we are seeing right now is the beginning of a clear awakening of the people. What we are seeing right now is that some people were in fact fooled. Some people fell for the rope-a-dope. But as Bob Marley says, you can fool some people sometimes, but you can't fool all the people all the time. That's the act that Donald Trump is trying to keep up right now. With his distractions in LA, with the smoke screen that he has put up, with his show of force and the military parade on his birthday, it is to conjure a childhood favorite in The Wizard of Oz. It is to make us believe that he is all powerful. And that regardless of what we do, no matter of movement that we amass, that he will still always hold all the keys and all the power. But you see, right now, Donald Trump is laying his cards out on the table. You see, the beautiful thing about him is that he's like a Bond villain. He tells you what he's going to do. He tells you each move that he is making as he makes it, because he can't fucking help himself. So it's not a shock that Donald Trump is getting ready to invade blue states. It's not a shock that Donald Trump is getting ready and has already begun the stages of militarization of America. So when we see headlines like this, ICE to deploy tactical units to Northern Virginia and 4 other cities, Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, all of which, except for Virginia, happen to have Democratic governors, Donald Trump is never going to stop. There is no capitulation and no amount of complying that folks can do that is ever going to satiate the insatiable. He wants this to be our norm. He wants tanks rolling down the streets with his name and face on them on a regular basis. He wants the average citizen thrown up against the wall and harassed and beaten for even daring to look in the direction of an officer that is doing something that is illegal. These teams, these elite SWAT tactical teams responsible for going after the most high-risk targets, by the way, not, 9-month pregnant women and first graders that ICE is picking up off of the streets and kidnapping. They were most recently deployed in Los Angeles. Reports say that the teams will deploy in Northern Virginia, New York, Florida, Chicago, and Seattle. Hundreds, and I would dare to say thousands, of No King Day protests are planned across the United States on Saturday, June 14th. From city blocks to small towns, from courthouse steps to community parks, we're taking action to reject authoritarianism and show the world what democracy really looks like. Organizers said on the official No Kings website. You see, people, Donald Trump can't take dissent. He can't take the fact that his little birthday party, his $45 million birthday party, is not only going to get rained on literally, but also figuratively speaking, because while I'm certain corporate mainstream media will have wall-to-wall coverage of his Kim Jong-un style birthday party, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people are going to be in the streets, and they ain't going to be waving Trump flags. They ain't going to have their little MAGA outfits on. No, they're going to be in the streets, in small towns and villages, neighborhoods and cities, to show Donald Trump how much they hate him and hate this regime. So when you think about the actions that are being taken, folks, I just want you to think about it. Because I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I just want us to use some critical thinking skills. Do you remember massive protests when Joe Biden was president? For all of the hate that Fox News and News Nation and Max and all of these other right wing places tried to conjure up, were there enough of them to be marching in the streets every other fucking weekend? No, there wasn't. And there was absolutely no reason for them to be. Because you see, the American people during the Biden Harris administration were at ease because an adult was back in the room. They went back to sending their kids to school and going to work. The right didn't have enough power then or enough people then to organize protests on a regular basis against Joe Biden. But you're seeing them now, and you're seeing them grow. And I am telling you, I promise you, this is only the beginning. I said that as the seasons changed, as we move from winter to spring to summer, that this was going to be one of the longest and hottest, I mean, both in temperature and in energy, that this country has ever seen. I have said, not because I've wanted to be right, but because it is something that I have deeply felt, that things in America will in fact get bloodier before they get better. I've been saying that on air since 2017. Donald Trump thinks that he's going to stomp out everyone. But as Bob Marley said, you can fool some people sometime. But the wool is being pulled back from people's eyes. The rose color is changing to clear. His tactics and his goals are becoming ever present and transparent. While corporate mainstream media will continue to gaslight us and tell us that those that are protesting are the problem and that there must be a right way to protest. There is no right way to respond to oppressive forces that want to have their boot on your neck. These are the same fucking people that told Martin Luther King Jr. that he was disruptive, that he was a menace, that if you polled and saw the polling for Martin Luther King Jr. before his assassination, he was one of the most hated figures in these United States. White people have sanitized him to shit and have made him look like the epitome of just, capitulation and sitting on the sidelines. No. Martin Luther King Jr. was a disruptor. In your face. Willing to be jailed, willing to be killed to reveal America to itself. There is no right way to protest because when they were sitting at lunch counters, they said, don't do that. You're not allowed in there. Just follow the rules. When the rules take away your dignity, when the rules are dehumanizing, it is your responsibility to ignore them. It is your call to action to break them. They told folks during the civil rights movement, don't march. Why are you busying yourself with things like that? Just keep your head down. The Black Panthers, oh my God, they're dangerous. Why? Because they were exercising their Second Amendment right? I thought we had rights in this country to bear arms. But when Black people were bearing arms, they were violent criminals and thugs that needed to be put down. But Pawpaw, with his rifle on the back of his truck, circling Black schools, oh, that's just him standing his ground and protecting his land. I want you to understand that the language and the narrative that is being spun right now around protests is the same language that was being spun around the school protests against Gaza and Israel. The same language and narrative and storytelling of wait, be peaceful, that there's a right way to do things. This has been the same bullshit that the status quo has been using for generations. The waiting is over. The alarm bells are going off. People are making the conscious decision not to hit snooze anymore. They are rubbing the sleep out of their eyes and recognizing, isn't there a pattern here of erasing history, of villainizing the oppressed and not the oppressor? Of telling folks just to sit down and be quiet and keep your head down, and one day, the oppressor will break you off a piece of liberty? That's not how it works. It's not how it's ever worked. But it's what corporate mainstream media will tell you. They'll tell you it's more important for you to be concerned and riled up over a burning police car or a CVS than it is over people being kidnapped and sent to foreign gulags. They'll tell you that you should be more concerned with the damage of fucking property than the kidnapping of children. There's always a reason. Oh, he looked menacing. Oh, she was mouthing off. Oh, I thought they had a gun. Oh, I feared for my life. There's always a fucking reason, because white nationalism is filled with fucking excuses. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Not this time. Speaking of not falling for shit, you know, sometimes these moments present the best trolling that I have ever seen. Sometimes these moments, even though on this very show I have gone after Gavin Newsome because Gavin Newsome isn't to be trusted. Gavin Newsome is that white moderate Martin Luther King and Malcolm X and James Baldwin and all the others warned you about. Gavin Newsome wanted to have Charlie Kirk on his little podcast and Steve Bannon and yuck it up at the expense of trans people and black people and people of color. Gavin Newsome is an opportunist. And now all of a sudden, when authoritarianism is at his doorstep, now he wants to all of a sudden pull a bait and switch. He may be speaking right now because a broken clock is right twice a day. But trust and believe that that motherfucker ain't to be trusted. He is a means to an end right now. But let me tell you something about Gavin Newsome. If enough money is thrown his way, if a billionaire will wink at him and say, just stay in the middle of the road, hold down the status quo, and I'll fund your campaign. Oh, his tough talk will go right out the fucking window. So just be clear. He's no motherfucking hero, okay? He's no one to emulate. He is an opportunist, but he is an opportunist right now with a good troll. And so for that, I want to show you this clip, which he posted of Star Wars, the enemy stormtroopers coming in with Donald Trump's words being said. It's brilliant.
A once great American city, Los Angeles, has been invaded and occupied by illegal aliens and criminals. Now violent insurrectionist mobs are swarming and attacking our federal agents to try and stop our deportation operations. But these lawless rights only strengthen our resolve. I am directing Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and Attorney General Pam Bondi, in coordination with all other relevant departments and agencies, to take all such action necessary to liberate Los Angeles from the migrant invasion and put an end to these migrant riots. Order will be restored, the illegals will be expelled, and Los Angeles will be set free. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
I mean, I love a good troll because Gavin reposted that and from TikTok because that's exactly how Donald Trump sounds. He sounds like a fucking character out of Star Wars, out of Andor, and it's exactly what it looks like. I'm going to put the Stormtroopers on the ground and they're going to have their way and everyone needs to comply. Ugh. This also was funny as hell. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who picked up the Huckabee again, says, what's happening in California would never happen in Arkansas because we value order over chaos. Gavin Newsom's response, your homicide rate is literally double California's. But, who cares about facts? And then there's this. New Quinnipiac. I can't ever say that name right. Quinnipiac poll has come out. And God bless Republicans against Trump who used the picture of him holding on for dear life as he fell down the stairs. And remember when Biden had a stumble? This was front page news about his physical capabilities and his emotional capabilities and all of these front page news for forever. But, when it comes to Trump, we just move right along. Nonetheless, Trump's approval is at 38%. Only 38% of people approve of Donald Trump right now. 54% disapprove. Of Trump's bullshit bill, 53% of people oppose it. Only 27% of people support it. Handling of immigration, 54% disapprove, with 43% approving. So you want to understand why Donald Trump is pulling the kind of stunts that he's pulling right now? To distract you from this, from his utter and complete fucking failings. That's what Donald Trump is doing. And I want you to take a listen. Ooh, this was good. Congresswoman, representative out of the, I think it is 36th District of California. I may be wrong, but she is a representative out of California. And Sydney Kamalager, Dove, who had something to say about Donald Trump, about distractions at a recent press conference. Take a listen to Representative Dove. That I can say.
To be clear, then the borders are said that he wasn't going to do it, because obviously if they did arrest Gavin Newsome, then it would change the narrative, and then it would be about the illegal arrest of a sitting governor who was elected by the majority of voters in the state of California, and not about a felon who is in the White House who is manufacturing chaos to distract from the fact that he is cutting hundreds of billions of dollars in needed programs that will kill people. This is about if it bleeds, it leads. So he has created and manufactured violence so that he can have a show on the television. But other people, older people, folks who are disabled, young people are going to be bleeding when Medicaid gets cut, when people are evicted from their homes.
This is the thing that like drives me crazy about the media. The media knows when it bleeds, it leads. The media is nothing more than a bunch of fucking ambulance chasers, right? Donald Trump throws you a fucking bone and you just run after it. You replay the same video of the same image of a Waymo on fire, right? Meanwhile, it's like if you paid attention solely to corporate mainstream media, then you would think the entire state of California was on fire. Funny enough, when it was on fire in January and in February, we weren't talking about it all that much after a week. The media's job is actually to connect the dots, to say, it's the reason why I named yesterday's show Trump's smokescreen. Because while we were busy paying attention to the fuckery that he's doing on his broke down social media platform and the stunts that he's pulling in LA and the targeting of Gavin Newsome and the saying that he says that Tom Homan should arrest him, which he has no grounds to actually do and no authority to do as a fucking border czar. Meanwhile, you have RFK Jr. shutting down the CDC, redoing our vaccine protocols, right? Vaccines that we actually need. And what somebody brought up yesterday, which is absolutely 100% the truth, that if your insurance company no longer has the panels to follow, the advisory boards to follow of what vaccines that they're actually going to cover, and you go in and you say, so don't we need the next COVID shot and polio for my kid and this, that, and the other thing, guess what? It's not going to be fucking covered. Big Pharma will not have to cover it anymore. Who is Big Pharma in bed with? Well, both parties, to be honest. But who are they getting the biggest breaks from? Donald Trump. And this big bullshit bill. So when you get sick and your kids get sick, they get to wash their hands of it and you're on your own. So more people will be putting up GoFundMes and absolutely going fucking bankrupt in order to pay for preventable diseases because they won't have vaccinations anymore. And for those that say, well, I'll just travel out of state until, guess what? Until those states run dry, and then I'll just go to Canada until Canada says, I don't want your diseased ass here. And other countries follow suit. The walls are closing in. And what Donald Trump is doing that I don't think that he is necessarily aware of is the fact that while he was busy trying to pit groups against one another, he is now creating one common enemy, and that enemy is him. And everyone that is falling in line with this regime, from corporations that are getting boycotted to his administration that is being boycotted. I think what we are going to see sooner rather than later is the national boycott that I've been calling for all along, a national fucking strike. Oh, you want us to get used to a militarized America? Well, then you get used to none of us going to fucking work. You get used to us sitting on our asses at home until the powers that be, those with the money, right? The 1% start to realize, oh shit, the money ain't flowing in the way that it used to. My workers ain't showing up in the way that they used to. Donald Trump thinks that he's going to create the climate for our misery and our capitulation. And I'm saying to you right now, mark my words, he is creating the conditions for the resistance. There's only so far people will be pushed. There's only so far people will go before you've taken away all their comfort. You've taken away all of their abilities to numb themselves. So now they're forced to see. And what they see is your boot on their neck. Not the immigrant, not the trans person, not the Black person, not the Muslim, you. So I say, okay, keep it going. Keep it up. Because you are revealing yourself in a way that I tried to for years to say what was coming. I tried to for years to paint the picture. But there's no better picture being painted than the one that Donald Trump is doing with the brush in his hand and his little $45 million parade. We've been trying to tell you that the man was an aspiring dictator. Now he's telling you his damn self. We told you he was going to turn on blue states and weaponize the military against people. Well, now you're seeing it. So it's no longer hyperbolic. Take a look at this. According to Ed Krasenstein, and I'm going to play this video from local news, ABC, the LAPD is reporting this incident involved a federal agent, apparently an ICE agent, who appears to have hit a vehicle of people who claim to actually be U.S. citizens. Not as if it would be okay for an ICE agent to ram into a car full of people if they weren't U.S. citizens. Let's just be fucking clear. It then appears that the federal agent fled the scene when they got it wrong. Ed is asking, is ICE now taking part in hit and runs when they accidentally pull over legal citizens by running into their vehicles, all attempting to find and deport undocumented immigrants? Folks, take a listen to this.
Boyle Heights, where we're learning about a crash that was involving federal agents. Scott Reif, you're live overhead with all the details from Air 7.
Yeah, Colleen, according to the LAPD Hollenbeck Division, this incident here occurred about 11 o'clock right here, Whittier Boulevard in Calzona in Boyle Heights, involving a federal agent. Now, we believe there's video showing it's an ICE agent, and they fled the scene. According to initial reports, that's what we believe happened. Hollenbeck Division is even saying they're investigating this possibly as an assault with a deadly weapon. So there's still a lot to find out, a lot of details to confirm, but it appears from what we have is that possibly an ICE agent was involved in an accident here, and they fled the scene. LAPD Hollenbeck Division are the ones who are investigating. Colleen?
How many videos have you all seen as of late of ICE agents breaking the windows of cars with people, including children inside, to pull out who they believe is an undocumented immigrant? How many stories have you heard as of late of ICE agents going into elementary schools, trying to lie to teachers and administrators to tell them that they have the parents' consent to do a welfare check on a child? They are using any means necessary, and that includes vehicular homicide, apparently, or attempted vehicular assault, that apparently ramming your car into a vehicle filled with people who obviously look brown or black is totally acceptable if it turns out that those people are undocumented. But when you realize that they're U.S. citizens, they flee the scene. Who flees the scene, folks? Criminals, right? People with something to hide. Because you're a federal agent. Aren't you just, quote unquote, doing your job? Why would you hit and run? Because you know that you're doing something illegal. You know that you're doing something wrong. And you don't want to be caught. because you had justification if they were undocumented. But now that you just rammed into a car full of brown people, you don't really have a leg to stand on. Donald Trump has instituted quotas. He's given out cash money to people who are being told to leave their morals at home. This shit, this picture again, this could be you. Right? Oh, it was a mistake. What if this was a highway and you're being rammed into? What if the car were to spin out of control and then crash and those people end up dead? Then what? It is only going to get worse. It is only going to get worse. And that is why more and more people are waking up one by one and choosing to stop hitting snooze. Because they realize that they're not safe. And that so long as Donald Trump and this regime is in power, no one will be safe again. Let's take a trip across the pond, shall we, and see what's happening with our former allies. Speaking of people that are recognizing, you know what? We ain't safe and we can't rely on the United States anymore. Trump is pushing allies away and closer into each other's arms. Important U.S. allies are trying to bolster their ties as the Trump regime shifts priorities and reshapes the world order. So here's a picture of President Emmanuel Macron and Prime Minister Keir Starmer of Britain in conversation. They're getting ready to be at their G7 meeting, which many are calling G6+1, because who knows what side the United States is going to be on. I think we have an idea. But in this New York Times write-up, they say new trade deals, joint sanctions against Israel, military agreements. America's closest allies are increasingly turning to each other to advance their interests, deepening their ties as the Trump administration challenges them with tariffs and other measures that are upending trade, diplomacy, and defense. Concerned by shifting U.S. priorities under Trump, some of America's traditional partners on the world stage have spent the turbulent months since Trump's inauguration focusing on building up their direct relationships, flexing diplomatic muscles, and leaving the United States aside. This emerging dynamic involves countries such as Britain, France, Canada, and Japan, often referred to by international relations experts as, quote, middle powers, to distinguish them from superpowers like the United States and China. But I want you to think about this for a moment, aside from the distinction of the middle powers. What do you think happens when all of the middle powers actually unite? I think that forms a superpower, no? If all of the middle powers start to form treaties, create military assistance with one another, form trade agreements, collectively, they become a superpower. With, guess what? A common enemy. Now, while no one is pretending that the United States doesn't have the strongest military in the world, that America doesn't have one of the highest economies in the world, no one is denying that. But I think what these middle powers are starting to understand is that much in the way that Americans are recognizing that collective power is the way to fight back against autocracy, middle power nations are recognizing that the way to fight back against the United States is through collective power. See how that works? You see how the reordering of the world's superpowers is reshaping geopolitics? You see how that works? It's only a matter of time. It is only a matter of time. The flurry of activity among such nations is not limited to trade. They are also working together on diplomatic issues where American support has wavered. This week, Britain, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Norway together imposed a travel ban and froze financial assets of two far-right Israeli cabinet ministers in a rare coordinated action by Western powers over the conduct of the war in Gaza. These folks are starting to organize. The way that grassroots groups in the United States are organizing and coordinating, the middle powers and the world powers are doing the same. The push for greater cooperation has not been limited to traditionally allied nations either. The European Union, for instance, has been working to expand its trade deals with economies around the world, from India to South American nations. We negotiate, says the EU Trade Commissioner. We don't isolate. The world is changing very, very quickly. The first time around with Donald Trump's first regime, people thought that they could weather the storm. Just hunker down, keep your head down, and all will be well in 4 years. The damage that Donald Trump has done in the last 6 months signals that the hunkering down isn't going to cover it. That the way that Donald Trump is moving is signaling not only to the world, but also to folks at home that thought that they could, not pay attention to politics. It's not really my thing. And kind of get along with the get along. They're realizing that maybe he's not going to leave in 3.5 years. Maybe we actually need to do something about it. Because here is Donald Trump this week standing in front of the military in their fatigues, cosplaying as a strong man with people that, guess what, have to show up. Otherwise, you're disciplined. And why was he at Fort Bragg? Anyone know? Because while the rest of the world is moving forward, Donald Trump is going backwards, literally, and wanting to revert the army bases to Confederate names. Names of the people who were and are the criminals of the American story. The ones that wanted to secede. He delivered some campaign-style speech saying that he's going to go back to the way that things were. Because once again, this is a signal. And this is where I'll close today's show. Again, another amazing quote from Bob Marley. Emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Everywhere that you look, whether it's government agencies, corporate newsrooms, technocrats. Everyone is trying to gaslight us. Everyone is trying to make those that are pushing back against oppression the problem and not the oppression itself. The way forward is together. Staying woke and conscious is how we emancipate ourselves, not just from mental slavery, but from their consistent lies. For too long, we were told that if we just follow the rules, do the right thing, all would be well. Donald Trump has torched our Constitution. MAGA doesn't believe in rules. You see, those were patriots that stormed the Capitol and defecated in the halls of Congress on January 6th, that beat police officers. Oh, but the real insurrectionists are ones that burn Waymos because they're demanding collective liberation. They stormed a Capitol because they lost an election. People are in the streets right now because people are losing their fucking lives. Folks, get up, stand up. Stand up for your rights. That is it for me today, dear friends, on the Danielle Moodie Show. I will be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern. Do, if you have not, subscribe to this channel yet. We are so close to hitting our mark of 25,000. And if you have yet to subscribe, like, comment, and share this show. Help feed the algorithm fairies and get the word out and this show into as many feeds as possible, as well as if you have yet to go over to the Damn Digest, I got great shows up there right now. I also am about to post the midweek check-in that Wajahat and I do for Democracy-ish. That will be up shortly as well. As always, dear friends, power to the people and to all the people power. Get woke, stay sane, and in these extraordinarily dangerous times, dear friends, do stay safe. I will see you back here tomorrow, live, 5 p.m. Eastern. Be well.